started, I wanted to let you know that there are time codes down below. So if there's some part of this video that you're mostly curious about, or you wanted to reflect on any particular subject that comes up in this video, you can refer to that down below. I also wanted to let you know that I'm kind of coming off a case of COVID, and I'm not 100% right now, but hopefully good enough to where I can do this and be entertaining too. In today's video, we are unboxing the Smart Aquarium from Wonder Factory. This was sent to me for free. I didn't pay for it. So fair warning, it's my full disclosure. Also, I believe that there are some tracking links that I'm going to be able to put down below. This aren't affiliate links, the best I know, just to kind of see who comes and looks at it after they watch this video. But links and stuff for their Amazon page and this aquarium specifically will be down below. Alright, so today we are unboxing the Smart Aquarium from Wonder Factory. This is a little 5-gallon tank, and it's got some interesting features and stuff. It's a little different than your typical 5-gallon, so that's why I was intrigued enough to have them send this over and talk about it. I do intend to build this at some point, so the full setup video where we aquascape it and I decide ultimately what I want to do with it will come later. I have kind of peeped inside of it because it did arrive with like a pretty big ding on the bottom of it. It's the kind of thing that would probably scare me. But it's packed really well inside, as I'm soon to show you. But in this video, we're going to unbox it. I'm going to talk about the features. I have read up a little bit more on this aquarium than usual. I actually read through the instructions and everything. You'd be so proud. And we're going to try out some stuff and just kind of look at it and get a first impression of this. This won't be a full review because I haven't used it. And I find that there are some things that in practice just don't work out as well as they seem at first. And very rarely do things work 100% like you're told they do in the packaging. So I always like to give it the benefit of the doubt. Like I'm sure it's a great aquarium, but we'll give you the full review later on. At least let me plant it before I talk about it. I can tell you right off the bat, I'm kind of getting full of ideas for how to sort of kit bash this. So what I typically do with 5-gallon aquariums is I turn them into a sort of a paludarium. And there's definitely some options for that. We'll get into that in a minute. Right, so now that we're all fully disclosed, and you guys are probably ready to really take a look at this aquarium. So the way this is a 5-gallon, and the way it's advertised is that it's got kind of a full functioning hood. So this hood's got a bunch of stuff I'll let you do, like change the water flow, work an automatic feeder, which is a real unusual thing for a kit like this, and display the temperature and stuff like that, but it might be in Celsius. So why don't we open this up and just kind of really take a look at what we got. So right here on top we've got a water draining tube, which is part of another cool feature I'll explain in a minute. We've got this, which is something that's included in case you have a problem or a question or something like that. You get the little code that take you right to the manufacturer so you can talk to them. We've got a user manual. It's pretty easy to read, quick and easy. And we've got some like fish keeping tips. So these are just kind of like for the first time fish keeper, just some little handy tips. Looks like there might be a little bit of operational instruction, but I think the first time I read this is like talking about how to acclimate fish and stuff like that. So this is probably less important. Right here we have, I believe this is the power supply. Yeah, you can see that this is made modular so that if they ship this to another country, they can match the power source and just put it right there. I'll go ahead and take a quick look at that. Alright, so we got a power source, and we got a little, I don't know if you call this a BNC connector or one of those little connectors like that. So, alright, put that aside. And you know, I think for the rest of this, maybe we should just do a mega unboxing and skip the whole awkward pulling this out of the, you can see it's well packed. It's well packed in there. There's a lot of room on the side, so I don't think it's damaged or anything. But let's do a little mega here just for old time's sake. What do you say? Mega! Okay. All right, so that was very tightly packed. I see no damage on it whatsoever. It looks really good. All of this stuff was taped down really good. I'm trying to see how the lid comes off. So the lid does sort of hinge, so you can work on it. And boy, that is nice right off the bat. This also is made so that light will turn off when you lift it up. Yeah, so here's the lid. It's got some little feet right here on the front. It looks like it'll let you just kind of prop it in like that, which is just kind of, that's automatically really smart. This lid is really substantial. It's really thick. You'd think that this would be kind of, usually this is sort of just a real hollow piece. But this is, you can tell it's holding a lot of stuff besides just the light. Trying to figure out how do you get to the filter material, which I think, oh yeah, so this pops off. And here we've got a custom designed pump that's supposed to be really quiet. I'm going to read all the features and stuff in a second. We've got some little media baskets which seem to contain, these are like different sponges that are probably coated with something. It looks like you could take this apart. Could you? Let's see. Yeah, for a lot of DIYers, taking this apart would be a real benefit. Like, even if you sold, I mean, a lot of these things, usually filter cartridges are made to be sold again and again and again. So, boy, that's a lot of plastic and stuff. It'd be neat if you could break into this and like recharge it with your own materials and stuff. It's probably not designed to do that. Let's see what we got here. Oh, we got some mechanical filtration and stuff. This could probably be washed out and stuff as you need it. That's interesting. So we got some mechanical filtration. This is obviously like some filter floss or something like that in there. It just slots in with these little containers. That's kind of neat. A cool feature. Remember, it came with these. Remember, it came with this hose earlier, and I was saying that was part of another feature. Well, what they have here is sort of a water change feature. This is a thicker hose. This is sort of water changer style hose here, and this part of the pump lifts up, and then you can stick this down in here, and that will pump the water out. So you can just put this to a bucket and hit a button on the front of the console there and just pump your water out that way. And then you don't have to have no water changer or any kind of awkward stuff like that. Now, you can't gravel vac with that, but some people, like I almost never gravel vac my planted tanks, and something like this makes a little bit more sense. So I really appreciate that. I think that's a smart idea. All right. That fits on here like so. Well, I guess the power button, I wonder what the power plugs into. So the hood's going into this thing. So I'm guessing it plugs in, what's this? Ah, okay. So this is where it's going to plug in. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and get that ready to go, so we can look at the lights and stuff. So it might be a little difficult to see, but there's a slot right here. And this has got a little piece of plastic that perfectly matches that. So what you do is just press that in like so. You've got a nice clean fit for that one cord to go out. One of the advantages they list with this aquarium is that it only takes one cord. I can see that as an advantage, but it might be a disadvantage too, depending on something we'll get to in a minute. What's funny is my only look at this from the front has been in my camera lens, so I'm going to turn this around so I get a look at it here. Alright. It's pretty neat. It does have a footer on it. So it's going to sit, oh gosh, it's going to sit a little bit, it's not, you're not using that whole surface. So we'll take a measurement of this bottom part and I'll put it down. Oh, there it is. So that's the surface that you'd need for the feet of this to touch. So you could maybe put it on a pedestal and it'll hang off. I don't recommend that. But it's only 5 gallons. So there's a lot of places you could put that. Maybe towards the end of this video we'll talk about who this is for. The whole back of this is encased in sort of a black plastic. And so it's sort of it contains all the filtration here and you won't see any of it. There's an adjustable vent on the low end over here. And then there's another one on the top. So in that way it's a lot like the Fluval Specs, although it's much more, a much bigger vent on the bottom than a lot of those, the Flexes and the Specs and the stuff that have the built-in filtration. And this really isn't a similar scenario to those. Like it's a back filtration product, but it's also quite different. So I'm only comparing it to that because that's what I've had the most of. There's a couple of other 7-port tanks that I've had, or one in particular that does something similar, but even it is quite different. This aquarium goes for quite a lot on Amazon compared to a lot of 5-gallon tanks. Maybe it offers a lot too, but you'll have to work out whether or not it's right for you in terms of price and stuff. I am going to run down some of the features that they list. So it's got a self-developed ultra-thin water pump, and you can buy that pump separately on their website for not a lot. So if it's a really good, quiet little water pump, it might be good for other projects too. Keep that in mind. It's got a 5-year, it says it's got a 5-layer professional-grade compartmentalized back filtration system that includes 3 sets of nitrifying bacteria cubes, pump filter cotton for the mechanical filtration, and 6D physical filter cotton, probably also in there. Additionally, we have included our patented anti-clogging pump, which effectively performs physical filtration and bacteria cultivation. Okay. The side suction pump allows the tank water to be discharged through the pump's module drainage hole, which I showed you a minute ago. HD UHA glass and LED display Wonder fish tanks use a 5 gold crystal UHA grade glass, which is higher quality and more transparent glass than material compared to the float glass commonly used in high-end fish tanks. Okay, this type of glass is often used in the automotive industry and is more expensive and has a thickness of 6 millimeters and a light transparency of up to 92%, perfectly restoring the underwater ecology. The tank's key functions are displayed digitally, including the pump speed, the water temperature, and the light modes. The entire unit features a 16:9 widescreen design, providing a cinematic visual experience. Okay. It's got a smart automatic fish feeder. This fish tank comes with a patented feeder that allows you to feed the fish by simply pressing a button on the settings page. The electronic feeder in the beta tank, which is weird, it says beta out of nowhere. Beta tank features a moisture-proof design to ensure fresh food and prevent clogging. One refill can last up to 3 months. The 5-gallon smart fish tank lighting system includes 24 high-Cree LED white light bulbs and 16 full-spectrum RGB light beads. This setup provides color rendering close to sunlight and includes 7 preset light modules. Basically, it's saying it's plug and play. They say they give 24/7 customer service, and there's a 1-year warranty on this, so that's pretty cool. All right, so I turned the light on to make it a little bit easier to see, so we can kind of check out some of these features and stuff. Here's the fish feeder built in on top, and this will pop off. There's some lines I think you line up here. This will pop off. This will unscrew. You can fill this up. Supposedly this will hold it for 3 months, and it's got a little door there, so you can kind of guess how this works, right? It's going to flip around. Little door's going to come open, drop some food in there, and close back up as it goes around. That pops right back on there pretty easily. There is a hole right here, so probably a source of evaporation, but maybe not a big deal. I don't know if that's so you could put a longer tube on there or why this gap exists. As you'll see in the top corner here, it does display the temperature. You can change the speed of the pump, which is really different. That's something a feature you don't really see on a lot of these. I wonder if you can change the light modes. There's off, if that's a mode, and on. Oh, that's definitely a different color. Okay. So I'm looking in the reflection here down below, and you can see that this is alternating different patterns of lights, from like more white lights to a lot of green lights, white and blue. It's like kind of dim white lights, blue lights. A lot of different modes. One color I don't see is red. Usually these will have some red lights in them too. I see green and blue and white. That looks pretty nice. Supposedly you can operate the fish feeder too by pressing the button on the top. Oh, there it goes. So I've never really had an opportunity to use a fish feeder. I think that's a pretty neat thing. But I don't usually use them. Like usually, if I'm going to go away for a few days, my fish have been better off if like I don't arrange for anyone to feed them. But having an automatic fish feeder is kind of neat, especially depending on their application for this tank. It could be really handy to have that. And it even could be a reason, like including this could be a reason to want it for some folks. We'll get into who wants this and why in just a minute. Another feature of this thing is when you lift the lid, instead of blinding you with the light, it automatically turns the light off. Isn't that interesting? You close it. So it must have a mercury switch or something in here to toggle that light on and off depending on whether or not you're opening the lid up. So as convenient as it is to have one plug, if you don't have a heater. If you have a heater, you'll end up with two. But having one plug for everything means that you can't put this on a timer. All of these things should be integrated into an app. And apparently you can operate it with an app. It's not an official thing yet. Apparently by September, these things, when they're being manufactured, will be more tied into a direct app. There is something called Mi Home, which apparently you can connect. It uses an app called Mi Home. It's M-I Home, and it will connect to that. The process is a little convoluted, but I was able to successfully connect to this. And once you're connected to the app, you kind of unlock a lot of the smart features, like being able to add this on a timer. I can click around on here and kind of change this light to a bunch of different settings. In fact, there's a lot of settings. I'm not sure what a flowering light is. So the big caveat, of course, with this though is that not everyone can connect to the Mi Home app the way this works. Not everyone will be able to do that, and but for that reason, they do not guarantee that you will be able to connect with the app. That might be a deal breaker for some. But don't despair, because they say that come September, which is just a few weeks away, they should be able to have it fully integrated. So my recommendation is to you is to maybe keep track of that link or their main website. Check back with that and see if they've included that in their advertisement to see if it's fully included. For me, it would be a deal breaker if I couldn't put a timer on this. And for that reason, I've got the app connected. It was a little bit of a thing, but it wasn't too hard. They had sent me some instructions, and I went through the process, and it's kind of neat. There's a lot of neat features in it. You can activate your feeder. You can activate a light schedule. I've set this schedule up here. It does connect to your Wi-Fi and stuff, so I was able to do a firmware upgrade. Excuse me. Still COVID-y. This does connect to your Wi-Fi, and I was able to do a firmware update on this too. It's only going to display temperatures in Celsius, which is kind of funny. I'm wondering if with a firmware update, if we could switch it to Fahrenheit, that would be really cool. But you can control. You can make a light schedule. You can pick. You can pick the different light styles for that too. Depending on your preference, like if you're growing plants or whatever. Right now I've got it in disco mode apparently. It has some of the funny, the things that people always do with these LED lights. They kind of give them all these different little functions and stuff that probably the fish would hate, but it's fun for us. You can dim the light on here too, I noticed, which is kind of neat. So you'll kind of hit the setting, and then it'll react a second or so later. Let's see. Well, you can make all kinds of little minor adjustments inside of this too. I'm going to go put this on this light. This is the light mode I think I want. There we go. You can activate the feeder from here. Determine the different types of portions that maybe you'd want. There it goes. Got a little feed log here that should update and let you know that it's fed, so you can kind of keep track and see if it's still working. It's got a temperature. So it's got a thermometer built into this, of course. That's where that it is in Celsius. But it also will let you set alarms, so you can tell if it's going in or out of a particular range, and let you give you a heads up if the temperature range is a particular thing for you. The water pumps on here. You can control the different levels of the water pump. Something else that's important about this is that it does have a child safety lock. So these are old buttons that little kids would love to kind of, they got pictures of fish on them for the feeder and stuff. They're going to love to go in and touch those things and mess with them. So if you have the app enabled, you can turn on the child safety lock, which means that all of these are disabled, and you can only interact with it with the app. So that's what a child safety selection is for this thing. Oh, you can it's got a feeding schedule too, so you can set up a little feeding schedule for this. So let's say I want to feed every day. I'd probably want to feed right after I got to work. I'm thinking about taking this to my office. Hey, maybe a little extra light on me wouldn't hurt, right? I'm thinking about taking this to my office, and for that, I think I probably want this to come feed them like pretty soon after I come in. So I get in at 7:30 or so. I'll set it for 8. I'll have it do one portion, and I'll have it repeat every day. So every day at 7:30, that little feeder is going to go off and feed a little bit of fish. Feed my fish some food. And we'll just save it, and there's our schedule. Now, I guess in theory, if I wanted to feed twice a day, I could feed them again towards the end of the day. Probably not that late. Well, like that. Feed another portion. Do that every day. So now, twice a day, I'll have some fish food distributed to my fishes. All right, so who's this tank for? So this is a relatively small aquarium. A lot of my fans have small little fish. I do a lot of these like little tiny aquariums. I won't go, and in fact, this company has a couple of other aquariums that are smaller, kind of in that two gallon range. And I didn't bother with them because I just tanks that are that smaller just more than I want to fool with at this point in my life. 5 gallon tanks are neat because they can be put in a couple of different places. They're not the best as far as like having a lot of room to raise a fish, but there's a lot of fish that I've raised pretty successfully in 5 gallon tanks, like coolie loaches. I've got my steampunk tank over here, which has been hosting some coolie loaches in there for years. And they seem awfully happy in there. They got their little sand and they swim around. 5 gallon is probably a good size for a betta tank too. I'm not sure what the water flow is going to be like, but it is adjustable. So you can just take that water flow and make it really slow, and that would be good. For years at my desk at work, I kept a blue German ram in one of these, or a tank about this size, and that was great. Once it's cycled and your plants are growing and stuff like that, there's a lot more versatility in what you could actually keep in here. This tank, personally, I'd like to take to the office. So I'd like this to be kind of my cubicle aquarium. I have a couple of spaces around the house where I could probably work this in, and have considered doing that. I might do that instead. We'll see. At least for the initial setup. So maybe I'll set it up here at the house, then I'll take it to work. My cubicle's not the prettiest place to make fish videos, so the reason I'm attracted to that and why I think that this is kind of a great option for the office aquarium. Now, I'm not sure about connecting the app. So the app wanted to connect to Wi-Fi. I'm not sure if I would want to connect any product Wi-Fi to my company. There is a visitor thing that's probably safe I could connect it to, but I hesitate connecting products like this to company Wi-Fis and stuff like that. Not that I think that they're necessarily up to anything, but you never know. That goes for any smart device, even light bulbs and stuff like that. But the great thing is I can set the light up on a schedule. There's not a complicated timer or anything that I have to arrange to fit into a socket. The automatic feeder will keep feeding my fish for me all weekend long. So while I'm gone on Saturday and Sunday, this tank will keep coming on and keep feeding my fish. And in fact, if I did have it connected to a Wi-Fi or something like that, then I could track that the feeding is going on when I connect with this app. Depending on how old your child is, this could be something that's interesting. You definitely want to put it in child safe mode because you don't want your kid like hitting the food button over and over again and end up polluting the whole thing. You can forbid them not to do it, or you can turn on the child safety lock. I guess that depends on your level of discipline and your child's ability to follow instructions. Having a light on a timer is crucial, especially for a planted tank. Although this one might end up in my office where I'm there to turn it off and on most days. It doesn't mean when I go on vacation, like right now, or other times during the weekends when I'm not there, there'll be no one there to turn the light on and off, and my plants will suffer. For that purpose, I have to have a timer on just about every aquarium that I make, just for the plants, if nothing else. So I'm glad there's an app that I can use on this now, and I'm glad that they're working towards improving that and making that more of a standard feature on this moving forward. In my opinion, that's one of the more important features that you really need to implement to make this worth the money. Being app controlled, especially controlling all the different features that you can control with the app now, I really like that. And I think that will set this apart from so many other aquariums that do kind of the same thing with this back filtration. The glass does look really neat. You can see in the cross, as you look at it sideways, it doesn't look super green or anything. In fact, it looks sort of blue. It's sort of a blue color. It does appear to be really, really clear. I've gotten fingerprints all over it, messing with it and stuff. But it looks nice. I like the shape of it. It's sort of like the 5-gallon. It reminds me a little bit of the 5-gallon Fluval spec, except that one has its filtration on the end, and this has it all the way in the back. And in fact, it's a little bit bigger glass, and this is a plastic component inside of it. which means that if you really wanted to, you could probably get rid of that. You could probably take this piece of plastic out if you wanted to do a no filter tank for some reason. So what are some downsides to this aquarium? Well, one, everything I've seen where it's filled up, the water level has to be kind of low.
So something I didn't notice at first is there is a max and a min fill line here on the side of the tank. It was on the opposite side from where I was looking, so I didn't notice it. So that would explain why the tank level is so low in all the photography and videos that I've seen.
It's probably, there's a lot of electronics in here. This is not a typical lid. This is thick. It's pretty thick. There's a lot of electronics in there that's going to enable Wi-Fi, enable it to connect to the app, enable the light and all this electronics and stuff. Probably a little Arduino or something inside of there. So they don't want water in direct contact with this lid. And because of that, the water level is supposed to be down a bit. Now what happens when the water level's down like that is as it inevitably evaporates, it'll leave a little bit of a white line right there and start to kind of discolor the glass. If you're really tidy and you're cleaning up all the time, if you always scrape that, scrub that water line with a sponge or something, you can clean it up for a long time and maybe put that off inevitably. But that's the reason why most people want their tank water up real high, just because it sort of hides that a little bit and keeps it from happening. So on their Amazon store, they sell these risers, right? And these risers fit in the corners and they'll bring this up. And if you do that, then you can raise the water level up higher. It's sort of the selling point for it. So if you really want that water up higher, there's like a little $20 accessory that'll raise the lid of this up. You could also DIY that with any number of things. In fact, what I think would be a fun DIY project is to set up these risers, maybe put some acrylic or something in between, so you're kind of making another transparent layer that's separate from the glass, and then you can set up maybe a little paludarium in the top of this. Having one cord to control everything means that the app control for this is pretty crucial, because you'll never be able to put it on a timer or anything like that. So hopefully they get the thing squared away with the app. They're able to guarantee that it will work for everyone. Mine connected okay. It was a little bit convoluted, but mine connected just fine, and I'm happy with the stuff that it's able to do. One other thing that might put some people off is this filtration system. So this is usually when you see a filtration system that includes cartridges where the media can't be removed and easily just swapped out. That means that every time you buy a replacement, you're buying this. And it looked like, I'm not sure how many months this is meant to go. It's got these things inside here that look like, I swear they look like sponges that have been enriched with something. So, but I don't see a way to open this or anything. So my assumption is that this is a disposable cartridge. But boy, what a big chunk of plastic that is. I have a feeling that if you wanted to, you probably, maybe, you could take bags of ceramic material and put them in here, and other alternative to the mechanical filtration. You could probably find a way to stick something else in here. So if you're a mega cheapskate like me and you don't want to buy more cartridges and stuff, you might miss out on some of the functionality that they have, and the way they click in here is really nice and stuff. But that may not, it definitely won't work as advertised. You definitely won't be utilizing it as the manufacturer intended, but it is probably possible to put your own media in here, swap these plastic things out with something that's a little bit more cost effective. It's crazy. It's even the pump out chamber is one of these compartments. So the pump, I guess, is built into this little compartment here, and you're able to unscrew it and pull it all the way out. I didn't notice that at first. That's really neat. I think that's actually really cool the way they did that. They sell replacements. You may well be able... Oh, well, look at that. A little prying on the bottom. I am able to kind of start to get this open. Huh. That might be so you can replace the pump. Not sure that you're able to do that on the other parts of this. They do have a slot in the back here for a heater, so there's a little space for the heater to go. And they sell a little slim heater that's supposedly made to go into this thing. So there's very often times you don't really need a heater in a tank. So it just depends on what kind of fish you're going to put in there. If you're going to put a beta or something like that, a betta, into a tank, you might want to put a heater in there for them. Maybe a blue German ram, things that are from real tropical, warm places. Other things like endlers and stuff like that sometimes, or maybe white clouds. I could see a school of white clouds in here, and they don't require a heater at all. Another thing I'd like to see in the smart light, so maybe on their next generation, my suggestion for you, is to work out a way to make these lights ramp up and ramp down. I don't want it to just turn on at a certain time. I'd like it to be really dim about 7:30, and then by noon be at full blast, and then by 4 or 5 o'clock start to be fading again, and then just kind of fade out. Because I like the way, I think fish actually react to the sunlight, to this kind of sunrise, sunset sort of thing. I think it's a little easier on the plants too, if they're not just bombarded with a particular amount of light all day long. Maybe if it fades in and fades out, maybe it feels more natural. And folks, that's about it for today. This is just kind of a preview and some opening thoughts on this aquarium. It's if you got a little bit of money and you want to spend something on something that's a little bit more nerdy than your typical aquarium, it's got a few really interesting features: built-in thermometer, built-in feeder, light motor control that are a little bit more than just like turning a dial or something like that. Usually with flow control and stuff like that, you're just kind of like opening or closing the hose a little bit more. This one actually changes the RPM of the pump, so the pump's going to be pumping in more water or less water based on the amount of power going to it versus something manual like just cutting water off. That also means if for some reason you're trying to sleep and you find that this is a little bit louder on full blast, you could tone it down a little bit. You could take that power, that motor down to a little bit to the lowest point, and then it probably would make no noise at all. Of course, how noisy it is, how frustrating it is to use, all of those things are something I'll have to discuss later. And if you want to see that, be sure to subscribe, because I'd love to see you again. When I do eventually make an update on this video, it will be here. And over there's other things that YouTube thinks you might like. Until next time, follow your bliss, keep a clean tank, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.